Despite hundreds of pages of sworn affidavits and potentially thousands of witnesses, Joe Biden still refuses to concede the race to Trump. Joe Biden's refusal to concede could cause the deaths of thousands of people. That's because it could end up delaying Operation Warp Speed. Moderate Democrats should urge Joe Biden to immediately drop out of the race rather than to continue to fight it in the courts. Notice how nobody's making this argument right now? Why not? It isn't any less valid than those who demand Trump concede immediately. It's called gaslighting, folks. For far too long, our conversations have always been framed the exact same way. The default position is always what's favored by the globalist elites. They take it for granted that Trump should be the one to concede. We can't trust the legacy media anymore. And no, this isn't a right versus left thing. It's about the elites versus the masses. We have to say adios to Fox News. Tucker Judas Carlson could have left with us, but he didn't, and there's no looking back. But why is all of this happening? Jose Ortega y Gasset was a reactionary Spanish philosopher who predicted the revolt of the masses. He believed the banal immorality of meritocratic liberalism would become absolutely unbearable over time. The masses, starved of any moral purpose, would revolt against the elite manager class. Ortega y Gasset turned out to be completely wrong. It was not the masses who would end up revolting. It was the elites. In his 1994 book, Revolt of the Elites and the Betrayal of Democracy, Christopher Lasch describes this rebellion. Elites betrayed the masses by gathering in enclaves in coastal cities. They offshored all of our manufacturing jobs. They stopped paying taxes through various tax shelters and schemes. They worked hard to undermine our traditional moral norms and Christian values. This was done by supporting things like casual sex, pornography, homosexuality, and later transgenderism. Elites made it increasingly impossible for regular people to compete with their national chain store businesses. Businesses that always had their workers' wages subsidized by the welfare state. Meanwhile, they flooded the country with third world immigrants. They handed over our national sovereignty to international organizations and free trade agreements. As a result of this rebellion, the elites now live in an entirely different world than regular people. Every institution in America serves the interest of the elites. For regular Americans, these days living in their own country is akin to being in a hostile territory. American elites have near impunity to do whatever they want. Flagrantly violate labor laws, engage in totalitarian mass surveillance and censorship, rig the marketplace by forming monopolies, operate a pedo island. Donald Trump was the first person to stand up to these treasonous elites. No, they don't get to just hide in their wealthy enclaves while Americans suffer. Trump was willing to do things like impose tariffs on trade to encourage manufacturing in the US. He would stop the flooding of America with third world labor. He'd appoint justices opposed to having the courts impose their own moral judgments on people. We've all seen the mass Trump derangement syndrome. Is it because the left are a bunch of dumb NPCs? No. This isn't a left or right thing. It's about the elites versus the masses. People act like hysterical lunatics when it comes to Trump because they've adopted the elite mindset. Sure, leftists who aren't elites also don't like Trump. However, they seem to suffer significantly less from Trump derangement syndrome. Anyone who points to the cucks at Fox News or National Review doesn't get it. They don't understand this isn't a left versus right conflict. This is a conflict between the elites and the masses. This is about quashing the revolt of the elites. For years now, the elites have waged an information war with us. They take the position that only elite sources in the media can be trusted. This is why YouTube redirects every video to Fox News or CNN. The reality is the media lies constantly. How many times have we heard the very fine people Charlottesville hoax? How many articles are out there saying Sidney Powell doesn't even have one piece of evidence of election fraud? There's no special quality the media has that makes their news stories more true. If you buy into that premise, you're buying into the idea that only the elite views matter. That means you've already lost the information war. That's exactly what we're in right now. Alex Jones was right. This is an information war being waged against us by globalist rebels. Like the Confederacy, the rebellion needs to be quashed. The elites right now are panicking in desperation. Just look at how hysterical they reacted to yesterday's Mike Pence conference.
Thank you.
All of you need to answer this. Why is the federal government?
and you won't work with the transaction.
I don't know about you, but I smell blood in the water. The Cathedral, the moral authority of the global elite, has never been this weak. The false morality it perpetuates has never rung so hollow. The fake morality of the Cathedral is nothing but an illusion based on the supposed legitimacy, authority, and meritocracy of the elites. In reality, though, those institutions lack any of those things. They're nothing but rebel scum that ought to be brought to justice. They're traitors. If we stop listening to them and treat them like the treasonous rebels they are, the whole fraudulent system they've created will collapse. So here's what we do. It's high time we start ignoring the legacy media entirely. Don't watch or trust Fox News. Listen to pretty much anyone else. Alex Jones, Tim Pool, Nick Fuentes, anyone outside legacy media. Always assume university experts are morons, because they are. COVID-1984 is pretty much a punchline at this point. The number of people who've died from coronavirus over the last year is less than half of the number of people who die of smoking every single year. Yet smoking is allowed. That's also assuming the government's number of COVID deaths is accurate, which, let's be honest, it's probably not even close. So yeah, I'm gonna give a lot more weight to some medical doctor with a YouTube channel who says coronavirus is nonsense than I am to someone showcased by the fake news media. Why should I listen to anything the elites have to say? They're traitors. They revolted from our country. That leaves the courts. Now, ignoring the courts can be dangerous. Don't just think you can sovereign citizen your way out of a criminal case. However, if you're on a jury, you have the option to nullify. Judges and court decisions are not above criticism. If you can, demand a jury trial and argue the courts are violating your freedoms. You don't have to always do what your lawyer tells you, although it's probably a good idea to listen to them. Now, I'm not saying be a jerk or a crook. Don't get popped for DUI and then argue you were treated unfairly by the cops when you weren't. I'm talking about when the courts act unfairly, persecuting religious people, repressing conservatives, enforcing Orwellian COVID lockdowns. The elites are desperate right now for us to buy into their illusion. So let's absolutely crush them by doing the total opposite. They'll never be weaker than they are right now. This is our best chance at a permanent solution to this BS. If you like this video and you're not subscribed to my channel, support small YouTube channels like mine by subscribing. Thanks.